police officer was certain the black jogger running through the upscale neighborhood was up to something suspicious and demanded to see identification. But when the man presented his business card reading Mayor David Williams, the officer realized he had just profiled the person who controlled his department's budget.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and a comment before we start to learn more about what happened.
The first rays of dawn painted the sky over Riverside Heights, one of the city's most exclusive residential neighborhoods, where tree-lined streets wound past million-dollar homes with manicured lawns and luxury vehicles in circular driveways. The area represented the economic success that had transformed the city over the past decade, attracting affluent professionals, business executives, and civic leaders who valued both privacy and proximity to the downtown business district. Mayor David Williams began his morning run at precisely 6 a.m., following the same 5-mile route he had maintained for the past 5 years. At 45, Williams had served as the city's chief executive for 2 terms, overseeing a municipal budget of $400 million and governing a population of 200,000 residents across diverse neighborhoods that included both affluent suburbs and working-class communities. Williams's morning run served multiple purposes beyond physical fitness. The quiet, early hours provided time for reflection on complex policy decisions. The residential route allowed him to observe infrastructure conditions and neighborhood development, and the consistent routine helped maintain the mental clarity necessary for leading a major metropolitan area through economic growth and social challenges. Today's run would take Williams past the elementary school, where budget discussions had recently focused on expanding educational programs, through the business district, where development projects required mayoral approval, and alongside the park system that his administration had expanded through strategic land acquisitions and federal grant applications. Police Officer Luis Martinez was completing the overnight patrol shift that covered the affluent neighborhoods where property values and low crime rates required a visible law enforcement presence. At 31, Martinez had worked for the city police department for 6 years, specializing in community policing strategies that emphasized crime prevention through proactive patrol and civilian interaction. Martinez's patrol philosophy focused on identifying unusual activity that might indicate criminal intent, particularly in neighborhoods where residents expected comprehensive security and rapid response to potential threats. His training emphasized observational skills, threat assessment, and the importance of maintaining safety through vigilant monitoring of suspicious behavior patterns. When Martinez observed Williams jogging through Riverside Heights, several factors triggered his law enforcement instincts. The early morning hour was unusual for recreational activity in the neighborhood. Williams' presence as a black male in an overwhelmingly white affluent area seemed inconsistent with typical demographic patterns, and his athletic movement through residential streets raised questions about his purpose and destination. Martinez decided to investigate Williams's presence, pulling his patrol car alongside the jogger as he ran along Maple Street. Williams noticed the police vehicle but continued his run, assuming the officer was conducting routine patrol duties. "Excuse me," Martinez called out through his rolled-down window. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Williams slowed his pace and approached the patrol car, breathing heavily from his exercise but maintaining a respectful demeanor. "Good morning, officer. Is there a problem?" Martinez studied Williams' appearance, noting his athletic clothing, running shoes, and the fact that he was alone in an area where most residents would be asleep at this early hour. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Williams was surprised by the question's implication that his presence required justification. "I'm jogging. I run this route every morning." Martinez remained skeptical of Williams's explanation. "You live around here?" Williams understood that Martinez was questioning his right to be in the neighborhood. "I live about 3 blocks from here." Martinez's training had emphasized that criminals often provided false information about their residents to avoid suspicion, and Williams's claim seemed inconsistent with Martinez's assumptions about the neighborhood's demographic composition. "Can I see some identification?" Martinez requested, stepping out of his patrol car to conduct a more thorough investigation. Williams paused his workout routine, recognizing that the situation had escalated beyond casual conversation. "Officer, I'm jogging in my own neighborhood. Why do you need to see my identification?" Martinez interpreted Williams's question as potential resistance to lawful police inquiry. "Sir, I'm conducting a routine investigation of suspicious activity. I need you to provide identification." Williams felt the familiar weight of racial profiling that he had experienced throughout his life, but his position as mayor had given him additional perspective on police-community relations and constitutional rights. "Officer Martinez," he said, reading the name tag, "what specific suspicious activity have you observed?" Martinez was becoming frustrated by Williams's articulate questioning, which seemed designed to challenge his authority. "You're in an area where you don't belong at an unusual time of day, and you're asking too many questions for someone who's supposed to be cooperating." Williams recognized the discriminatory assumptions underlying Martinez's statement. "Officer Martinez, you've determined that I don't belong in this neighborhood based on what criteria?" Martinez realized he was approaching sensitive territory regarding racial profiling, but remained convinced that his suspicions were justified by legitimate law enforcement concerns. "I'm investigating activity that doesn't fit normal patterns for this area." Williams decided to address the situation directly. "Officer Martinez, I'm a black man jogging in a predominantly white neighborhood, and you've stopped me without observing any criminal activity. Do you understand how this appears?" Martinez became defensive about the racial implications of his actions. "Sir, this isn't about race. This is about suspicious behavior." Williams maintained his calm demeanor while noting Martinez's inability to articulate specific suspicious behaviors. "What behaviors have I exhibited that you consider suspicious?" Martinez struggled to provide concrete examples beyond Williams' presence in the neighborhood. "You're running through residential streets at an unusual time." Williams pointed out the logical inconsistency in Martinez's reasoning. "Officer, jogging is legal activity. Early morning is a common time for exercise. What makes my jogging suspicious?" Martinez was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with Williams's pointed questions, which exposed the weak foundation of his investigative justification. "Sir, I'm going to need to see identification now," Martinez demanded, adopting a more authoritative tone to regain control of the interaction. Williams reached into his running jacket and pulled out his wallet, removing his driver's license and an official business card. "Here's my identification, Officer Martinez." Martinez examined the driver's license, noting that it showed an address within the neighborhood Williams claimed to live in. The business card, however, caught Martinez's attention immediately. "David Williams, Mayor," Martinez read aloud, his voice reflecting growing confusion and alarm. Williams nodded calmly. "That's correct. I'm the mayor of this city." Martinez stared at the business card, slowly realizing that he had just subjected the city's chief executive to a racially motivated traffic stop during his morning exercise routine. "You're the mayor?" Martinez asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Williams confirmed his identity. "I am, and you've just stopped me for jogging while black in my own neighborhood." Martinez felt his career prospects flashing before his eyes as he understood the magnitude of his mistake. "Sir, I didn't know who you were." Williams looked directly at Martinez. "Officer Martinez, that's exactly the point. You stopped me because you assumed I didn't belong here, not because you recognized me as the mayor." Martinez was struggling to find appropriate words to address the situation. "Mayor Williams, I was just doing my job." Williams shook his head. Officer Martinez, your job is to protect and serve all citizens equally. What you did was profile me based on race and make assumptions about where I'm allowed to exercise. Martinez attempted to minimize his actions. Sir, I was investigating suspicious activity. Williams maintained his patient but firm tone. Officer Martinez, there was no suspicious activity. There was a black man jogging, and you assumed that was inherently suspicious in this neighborhood. Martinez was forced to confront the discriminatory nature of his policing. I apologize if there was any misunderstanding. Williams used the moment as an educational opportunity. Officer Martinez, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was racial profiling. And it's particularly problematic because I'm the mayor who signs your department's budget and sets policy for police community relations. Martinez was now fully aware of the professional and political implications of his actions. Williams continued his explanation. Officer Martinez, incidents like this damage trust between the police and the community. They reinforce negative perceptions about law enforcement and create barriers to effective community policing. Martinez listened as Williams explained how racial profiling affected community relations and undermined the police department's effectiveness. Officer Martinez, Williams said, I want you to think about this incident when you're patrolling in the future. Consider whether your suspicions are based on actual criminal behavior or on assumptions about who belongs in certain neighborhoods. Martinez nodded, beginning to understand the broader implications of his actions. Williams looked at his watch. Officer Martinez, I need to finish my run and prepare for a city council meeting where we'll be discussing police department policies and budget allocations. Martinez watched as Williams resumed his jogging routine, disappearing around the corner of Maple Street. The next morning, Martinez found a memo in his locker requesting his presence at a meeting with the police chief, the Internal Affairs Division, and Mayor Williams to discuss community policing policies and bias training. Over the following weeks, Martinez completed comprehensive bias awareness training and began working with community organizations to improve police-civilian relations. Williams used the incident as a catalyst for implementing department-wide training on constitutional policing and racial bias awareness. The police department revised its patrol protocols to emphasize evidence-based investigations rather than demographic profiling. Martinez became an advocate for respectful policing and worked with the mayor's office to develop community engagement programs. Williams continued his morning runs, but now occasionally encountered other officers who recognized him and understood that everyone deserved the right to exercise in their own neighborhood without harassment. The incident became part of the police academy's training curriculum, demonstrating how assumptions about race and neighborhood belonging can lead to constitutional violations and damage community trust. And Officer Martinez learned that effective policing requires protecting everyone's rights equally, regardless of assumptions about who looks like they belong in positions of authority or affluent neighborhoods. Because sometimes the most important lessons about justice happen not in City Hall, but on the streets where constitutional rights are either protected or violated by those sworn to serve and protect all citizens equally.